Imagine being so beautiful, so irresistible, that men would do anything just to have a piece of your attention. But what happens when beauty becomes a weapon, and obsession turns into destruction? Today's story is about a young woman whose life of luxury, seduction, and dangerous choices ended in the most shocking way possible. Her billionaire sugar daddy's wife poured acid on her. Stay with me till the very end, because this one will blow your mind. From the very first day she walked into university, everyone noticed her. She wasn't just another student, she was the student. Young, beautiful, with a soft, melodic voice and curves that made men turn their heads without shame. Every guy admired her, and every girl secretly envied her. She had the kind of presence that could silence a classroom the moment she stepped inside. But what people didn't know was that behind her radiant smile was a plan, a philosophy she had learned from the woman she trusted most, her mother. While her classmates spent sleepless nights studying, cramming formulas, and memorizing theories, she spent her nights in hotel rooms, on dinner dates, or riding in luxurious cars her peers could only dream of. She had a simple motto, if you know how to treat your lecturers well, you will never fail. And treating well didn't mean apples or gifts. It meant seduction, intimacy, or, when necessary, carefully placed bribes. Exams to her weren't tests of knowledge. They were transactions. Lecturers weren't mentors. They were opportunities. Now pause for a second, thought balloon. What do you think about that? Would you say she was smart for using what she had, or do you think she was digging a grave for herself? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to know. But where did all this come from? The answer lay in her own home. From childhood, she had seen her mother live this very lifestyle. She remembered nights when her mother would dress in short, tight gowns, adorning her waist with glittering beads that shimmered as she walked. She remembered how her mother would laugh and slip into cars owned by rich men, coming back the next morning with expensive perfumes, jewelry, and money that didn't belong to her. To the young girl, it looked like freedom. It looked like power. Her mother didn't need to beg. She didn't need to hustle. She lived off the admiration and lust of men who would do anything to have her. So, she made a vow to herself, if my mother could survive this way, then I will do it better. I will not just survive, I will rule. And slowly, she perfected the art of seduction. By the time she graduated, life was already rewarding her. One of her wealthy sugar daddies, an influential man with connections in politics and business, gifted her a house so luxurious it looked like something out of a movie. Marble floors, grand chandeliers, furniture imported from abroad. She was only in her early 20s, but she had already achieved more than most families could dream of in a lifetime. Her friends looked at her in awe, wondering how she did it. But she would only smile, because to her, this was just the beginning. But here's the part she didn't realize, every choice she was making, every step she was taking, was silently building a future that would one day destroy her. Now, let me ask you this, do you believe in karma? Do you think a life built on other people's pain will eventually collapse? Because in her case, it did. And it started the day she walked into her first corporate job. Fresh out of university, with her beauty sharper than ever, she stepped into the corporate world. And just like magic, doors opened for her. She walked into a big company, and without stress, she was immediately accepted. Was it her resume? Not really. It was her presence, her elegance, her aura, and the kind of beauty that made people want to say yes before she even asked the question. And within days, she noticed it again, men everywhere, from the young interns to the senior managers, admired her. But she wasn't interested in just anyone. She had rules. She told her colleagues openly, I only date rich, powerful men, and I prefer them married. They don't disturb you with love or clinginess. They give you money and peace of mind. Shocking, right? But that was her mindset. To her, being with single men was stress. Married men, especially wealthy ones, were her goldmine. And just as she expected, in no time, she had the attention of several executives. Fancy dinners, gifts, promises, her life was rolling exactly the way she planned. But then, something unexpected happened. A new staff member joined her department. He was young, handsome, and charismatic. Unlike the older men who tried to impress her with money, this one carried himself with confidence and simplicity. She thought to herself, this one will fall faster than the rest. So she tried. She threw hints, subtle touches, lingering stares, and conversations that left little to the imagination. She was sure he would crumble. But to her surprise, he didn't. He kept his distance. And when she pushed harder, he finally told her the truth, I'm married. I have a wife and a child. I can't, and I won't. That was the first time in her life she faced rejection. It wasn't just a no, it was a slap to her pride. She couldn't understand it. Every man wanted her, every man had fallen for her tricks. So why was this one different? Let me throw this question to you. What would you do if someone you thought you could easily win over completely rejected you? Would you walk away, or would it make you want them even more? Tell me in the comments. For her, rejection wasn't an ending, it was a challenge. And slowly, what started as attraction turned into obsession. She couldn't stop thinking about him. She hated the fact that he chose his wife over her. To her, that wasn't just rejection, it was humiliation. And humiliation was something she couldn't live with. So, she ran back to the only person who always had answers, her mother. Tearfully, she explained the situation, and her mother, instead of advising her to move on, took her deeper down the same dark path. She introduced her to a native doctor, a man who specialized in charms and spells. Together, they performed rituals designed to bend the man's will, to erase his love for his wife, and to make him obsessed with the young woman instead. And soon, the spell worked. The man who once proudly said, I am married, I have a family, suddenly forgot about everything. His wife and child became shadows in his mind. He started chasing her, running after her, giving her his time, money, and attention like a slave. She was thrilled. To her, this was proof that no man could resist her. Not even a faithful one. She had finally won. But what she didn't realize was that this victory was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of her downfall. Because behind every wife, behind every family, is a storm waiting to strike back. Now here's a question I want to ask you, do you think her mother was helping her, or destroying her? Because sometimes the advice we take from family can either build us, or completely ruin us. And in her case, that advice would soon lead her straight into a nightmare. The man who once told her I'm married, I have a family, was no longer himself. The charm had worked. He abandoned his wife and child, and like a puppet, he chased after the young woman as though she were the only thing that mattered. To her, it was victory. To his wife, it was heartbreak. Imagine building a home with someone, raising a child, together, only for another woman to appear and steal everything from you. Can you imagine that pain? The wife cried endlessly. Nights became sleepless, her once happy home turned into silence and arguments. She tried everything, cooking his favorite meals, reminding him of their memories, pleading for him to come back to his senses. But nothing worked. The charm had blinded him. And when she couldn't take it anymore, she picked up her phone and dialed the woman directly. Her voice was shaking, broken, filled with desperation, please, please leave my husband alone. He is all I have. We have a child together. Don't destroy us. But the young woman? She only laughed. Your husband? He's mine now. Maybe if you knew how to keep a man, he wouldn't be here with me. Go and take care of your child, because this man belongs to me. Let me ask you this, if you were the wife, what would you do at this point? Would you keep begging? Would you walk away? Or would you fight back? Drop your answers below, because this is where the story takes a deadly turn. The wife's pain slowly turned into rage. Every time she thought about the woman's mocking words, something inside her burned. She wasn't just losing her husband. She was losing her dignity, her peace, her sanity. And like a volcano waiting to erupt, she decided she would no longer sit quietly while another woman tore her life apart. One evening, the young woman was on the phone, speaking sweetly to one of her other sugar daddies, a billionaire who spoiled her endlessly. She was standing outside, carefree, laughing, completely unaware of what was about to happen. That was when the wife spotted her. From the driver's seat of her car, she watched the woman flaunt herself without shame, and in that moment, anger consumed her. She reached under her seat, pulled out a container she had been carrying for days, and without a second thought, she threw it. In seconds, the young woman's laughter turned into the most terrifying scream. Acid splashed across her face, burning her skin, melting her beauty, and erasing the very thing she had always used as her weapon. Neighbors rushed out, horrified by the sight. She was rolling on the ground, screaming in agony, her once perfect face now destroyed. People shouted, cars stopped, someone called an ambulance. The wife, her mission complete, sped away in her car, leaving chaos behind her. As the young woman was rushed to the hospital, she realized everything was gone. Her beauty, her pride, her power, it had all vanished in one single moment. And as if fate itself had been waiting for this day, the charm she had used on the man expired. Suddenly, he remembered everything, his wife, his child, his life before the madness. He was shocked, confused, and filled with guilt. And the young woman, she was left alone, scarred, and filled with shame. Now I need to ask you, do you think the wife was right for what she did? Or do you think no matter the pain, violence is never the answer? I know this is a tough one, so let's talk about it in the comments. But one thing is certain, for the young woman, this was the beginning of her darkest chapter yet. Because losing her beauty meant losing the only power she thought she had. And now, she had to face a life she was never prepared to live. In the hospital bed, she stared at the mirror, and the reflection that looked back at her was unrecognizable. The soft skin that once attracted men like moths to a flame was now scarred. Her perfect face, her ticket to luxury and admiration, had melted away. For the first time in her life, beauty couldn't save her. Power, money, charm, none of it mattered anymore. She was disfigured, broken, and abandoned. The billionaire sugar daddy she had been speaking to never called again. The married man who had been under her spell returned to his wife and child, ashamed of what he had done. Even her so-called friends disappeared one by one, leaving her to sit alone in her shame. Lying there, she thought about everything, her past in school, the lecturers she seduced, the rich men she manipulated, and the way she laughed at the wife who begged her to let go. All of it felt meaningless now. And then, for the first time, she began to see her mother not as a role model, but as the root of everything. It was her mother who had first shown her this path. It was her mother who took her to the native doctor. And it was her mother who encouraged her when she should have guided her away. For the first time, she realized, some lessons from family are not blessings, they are curses. Let me ask you this, do you believe children should always follow the example of their parents? Or do you think sometimes, we must break free from family cycles to protect ourselves? Drop your thoughts below, because this part of the story is where the biggest lesson lies. Her once glamorous house, gifted by her sugar daddy, became like a prison. Every time she stepped out, she could feel the stares, the whispers, the judgment. She wasn't the center of admiration anymore, she was a cautionary tale. People would nudge each other and say, that's her, the girl who had everything, but lost it all. And that shame cut deeper than the acid itself. The man she had fought for returned to his wife, who, after much pain, chose to forgive him for the sake of their child. Their home slowly rebuilt itself, while the young woman's life crumbled further. Even her mother, the woman who once dressed proudly in seductive gowns and waist beads, could not look her in the eye. It was as if the universe had turned her into a living reminder of the consequences of misplaced choices. And this brings us to the lesson of this story: beauty, money, and shortcuts may give temporary power, but they never last. What lasts is character, integrity, and the choices we make when no one is watching. She thought she was winning by living off married men, but in the end, her victories were empty, and her fall was permanent. So let me leave you with this question: what do you think is more powerful, outer beauty that fades, or inner strength that never dies? Comment your answer, because your perspective might change someone's life today. Her story is not just entertainment, it's a warning. A warning about greed, about ignoring consequences, and about living a life that hurts others. She wanted to live better than her mother, but instead, she ended up worse. And the scars on her face became the scars of her choices. So the next time you're tempted by the easy path, remember her story. Because what seems like a shortcut today, could be the very thing that destroys you tomorrow. And please don't forget to like and subscribe for more of this mind-blowing folktale story. Thanks for watching.